Hello and warm welcome to New Generation Women, and I'm Janine Sanzenos. This is a deep dive, really deep dive. I'm not kidding. I talk with my interview guest, who is Nick Davis. He's a psychotherapist, a spiritual counselor, and a teacher of A Course in Miracles about how to fall in love again. Now, you think it's how to fall in love again with a man or a woman after some hurtful breakups, and it's not that. We actually didn't even touch that subject. It's about how to fall in love again with work, with passion, with purpose, with meaningfulness, with sacred activism, with God, with Buddha, whatever you believe in, how to fall in love again when we feel, I have done so much work, I'm disheartened, I lost heart, my results are nothing. I didn't get where I wanted. And even if I got where I wanted, somehow the original passion or the love is fading. And the core problem that will Nick tell you in a few moments is we don't even know what love really is. We have a very wrong picture of what love is. So we keep chasing the carrot. Enjoy the interview. It's going to be rough. No, it's not going to be rough, but it's going to blow your mind a little or big. And I think that's very important that we dive into a deeper layer of what the truth is. So good luck and see you in a couple of seconds. Hello and warm welcome to a city that I cannot pronounce.
Thank you very much.
So how do we pronounce your city?
We pronounce it Worcester.
But then the Americans do say?
They say Worcester, so it's quite funny listening to it, but Worcester it is, yes.
Okay, so Nick, tell me an example of someone who has lost her or his heart, before I share something of my story, and who is fallen out of love with A Course in Miracles, which happens because people do not feel the fulfillment or had their hopes met. And then they think it's a course, it's this one, it's the teacher. So I step back and I look for someone else. But we always come back to the same cycle: practice, discipline, and keep on going, even if the time is tough and even if it feels like we don't hear anything. But then we get disheartened.
Mm-hmm. Well, the first thing has to be that you want to have love as your priority in life. And I have a little magnet message on my fridge, and it says, "My favorite occupation is loving." I think it's a quote by Marcel Proust, but it's become my kind of favorite occupation. So I suppose the first thing about being in love and falling in love again is that it has to become the number one priority of one's life. Really, a life without love is empty. And I don't mean it has to be a person that you love, but a life without that loving feeling, that loving thought that starts a day, is an empty life. So the first thing about it, it's got to be number one priority. Those who are more religiously orientated would say, well, God has to be number one in their life. You know, it's like the first principle: love the Lord thy God with all thy heart and all thy mind and all thy soul and all thy being, says the Bible. But for us, we have a much clearer understanding of what God means to us, and love is the meaning of God, and God is the meaning of love, and therefore we use that word love. It has to be number one priority.
So let's go deeper into this. It's very obvious when we are falling in love with a man or with a woman. That's the most obvious. You know, you have those rose pink glasses on and life feels so easy and so embracing, and loving comes easily to you. And then we fall out of love. First, also sexuality is just, you know, great and juicy and everything. And then, of course, after a while, that doesn't flow anymore. So what has been given to us feels like we have to work it through or work our way back to it when it comes to something in the outer. The same is like, you know, then we have a passion or we have a purpose, and it feels like, wow, I'm so enlightened, I'm so loving it. But then after a while, I don't say it gets boring, but maybe it gets a little bit harder. And what we have been felt we've been blessed by, just doing nothing, just being overwhelmed by this enthusiastic feeling of the newness, a new man, a new passion, a new purpose, a new work, a new house, a new car, just fades away very quickly. And even God, even with God, even if we have, or another spiritual direction, we have found another spiritual direction and it feels like this hits home. And then we do it for a year or two and we still feel home. But then even that feels like work because life happens, things happen in life. Difficult situations happen, the news happen, climate change happen, a boss happens who has a bad mood. And then we feel we have lost connection to that core of love. So
Yes.
when you say love is the first part, I assume that many people would nod their heads and say, absolutely, I agree, Nick. Without love, everything is empty. Particularly our listeners and viewers, not the ones maybe that are still hunting and chasing the carrot in the material world, but those who see that, the car, the house, and everything on the outside doesn't do it and start an inner journey. They know how important love is. But even the ones, including myself, who went on an inner journey a long time ago, have their fallbacks, have their moments of, I completely lost it. It didn't do anything for me. Is there anything wrong with me? Feeling guilty, feeling ashamed. Shame is such a big thing. I feel so ashamed it didn't work for me. It seems not to work for me. I don't hear my inner voice. I don't hear God. I don't feel consciousness or the truth, as other people would say it. When people come to you, and I'm sure people come to you in this way, what are you recommending them? How are you bringing them back on the path of love?
Okay. Well, first of all, it has to be the most important thing in our lives. But probably the second step is to realize that I don't know what love is. I thought it was being with this person or being involved with this particular activity or being involved in some worldly pursuit. I thought it was that. But now I'm willing to see that love is something different from anything I've ever experienced. Well, one of the things about love that's described about love is it's eternal. Eternal means that it's not subject to time or space. It's not changeable. So the fact that it's eternal means maybe we need to look at it and think, well, I don't really know what love is. Mm-hmm. And that opens a door to a miracle, really. It opens a door to a miracle, a change of perception, a change of idea about what love is.
How would you describe this? Sorry for interrupting you, because I think this is so crucial. That is so crucial to say. We don't really know what love is. We romance love. We have been infused by Hollywood, by Pretty Woman, by marketing, by the music industry, entertainment industry, and even also sometimes with spiritual directions. They tell us how it feels, very passionate. Some people call it a bubble bath. I'm a little bit sarcastic in this. I know. But, that's really intriguing. So what is love? What is the closest how you can describe it, what love really is? Not the romantic version of love.
Well, I thought I was aware of love for about 32 years of my life. And I used to say regularly, because I was a very loving person, I love you, and really thought I knew what it was. But when I reached the age of 32, I'd been pursuing the study of love and looking at it through Course in Miracles and through various teachings. And it led to an experience. I'd been practicing listening to my own inner voice, my intuition. And the intuition seemed to get very, very strong at this particular time. And suddenly I was shifted out of my normal consciousness of the world and everything around, and became aware of being in love for the first time without any object, without anything stimulating it from outside. So I was in love, but not with anything, but with everything.
I mean, that sounds so, how much I try to grasp it and to experience it. And Robert Holden said once, this is not about willpower. This is about the willingness. And I think, yes, I get it. But where do I go? The willingness to what? And willingness to surrender. And we all know on a spiritual journey that love is our inheritance, that love is already there, that the whole journey is about undoing, and that we accept, surrender, receive to something that is already there and existing, and that is covered by a veil that is thick in the beginning, and that we hope to unlayer until it gets thinner and thinner, to get a taste more and more. I think that Marianne Williamson said once, and she is one of the well-known speaker of A Course in Miracles, and she said you get moments. For her, it was moments that she felt real love happening. You are the lucky one. You feel that the ocean of consciousness of love is there. For those who are not in that shift of, for us, it's still such not a miracle, I want to say, so unknown. Like other people call it consciousness or truth. It's just, or Buddha, if you go to the Buddhist way, but it feels so you cannot grasp it. It's nothingness. And we romanticize, of course, because it's the closest how we can feel good about ourselves, or loving kindness, or compassion for somebody, or feeling gratitude for oneself and for others. It's the closest, I think, that many of us can get. How is the difference? I mean, you have been in love. Let's take this one. You were very devoted to your wife, Anne.
Yeah.
And I can tell because you always speak about her. And you have met her before you were 32?
No, I met her after that.
Oh, shit.
Interesting.
Okay.
Oh, yeah.
I thought okay. Feeling what you had been, of course, in love with a woman before Anne. So the feeling, how it was before you made that shift into this consciousness of love, and the feeling being with a woman after you made that shift, what is the difference?
Well, before, like you were talking about earlier, it wore off, So I'd have this moment of passion and feeling of being in love, but gradually it would wear off, and I would start to getting into some judgmental thoughts about myself and about her, or about the situation, and the love would fade. So it was. Then I would seek again for something that would stimulate the feeling of love for me again. But in this particular instance, when I got to the age of 30, I've been working very hard, I have to say. It's not. I'm not suggesting that it suddenly came upon me like some wonderful event. I've been working very hard at removing the blocks to the awareness of love's presence, as the Course in Miracles puts it. And it says that, to experience love, you must let go of fear, because fear is blocking all experience of this love. So I'd been working pretty hard on it, and I got to a point where I was ready to really face the fears of my life, the things that were stopping me from being happy and fulfilled, all those things I'd accumulated and said that I was okay with, and some success and a relationship that was okay, and people thought was very happy, and I thought I was relatively happy. But suddenly I was willing to look at that and look at these blocks, these thoughts, these fear thoughts in my own mind. Now the process for me was to be listening to the voice of fear, but also the voice of the Holy Spirit, as the Course calls it, the voice of truth, the voice of God in my own mind, the voice of love in my own mind. So as these fears arose in me, I would say, okay, so this is what my fear is. What do you have to say? For example, at that time I was in business, and I was working very well in business, quite successful, but my heart wasn't in it. I went to work every day. In fact, I had to jog in the mornings to get myself to work every day and be in a good space. And then at the end of the day, I go for a swim to calm down. And I talked about stress and overcoming stress and being relaxed and meditating. I do a lot of meditating with the purpose of getting through the day, being peaceful through the day.
Yes.
So I was saying, I really would like to not work in this business anymore. I'd like to really become a teacher of truth, a teacher of A Course in Miracles. And immediately I said that, the voice of fear comes up. So how are you going to manage financially? You know, how are you going to make
Oh, isn't that a
money?
lovely voice? We love that.
So as that came up, I'd say,
Yes.
okay, Holy Spirit, you know, what do you say about that? And this, because I had a connection by now and I was able to listen in my own mind to these thoughts that were going forward, this thought will come forward, I've always taken care of you and I will continue to take care of you financially. So, okay, that's sort of calmed that fear in me. My parents were very proud of me being in my business, and they were actually talking in that positive way. Nick's doing ever so well now, and talking to the family and friends in that way. What are they going to think if I say to them, I've packed up my business now and I'm going to become a teacher of truth?
Oh
And,
dear.
of course, there's a fear of what are they going to think? And so I spoke again, and the Holy Spirit said, actually, they'll come round to it. They've come round to everything else. They'll understand. They'll be okay. Oh, right. Okay. So what about if I tell my partner, my business partner, who I've invested in and this business, and I've got a business partner, what's he going to say when I tell him that I no longer want to be in the business and I want to go and teach A Course in Miracles? And the Holy Spirit said, he actually already knows that your heart's not in the business. And when you speak to him, you'll find out that he already knows. Calm that one down. So these thoughts kept rising up in my mind. And this was a process that went on for hours into the night. And I kept on working through these fears. And finally, there didn't seem to be another one arise in my mind. It seemed to go calm, and I went into a very peaceful period when I fell asleep in this state of peace. The next morning, when I woke up in this feeling of love, this feeling of lightness and joy that I'd never experienced before. And when I went on my jog in the morning, I really thought if I put my arms out while I was running, I'd take off, I'd fly because it was so light filled. And everything I looked at was beautiful in my eyes. I thought, you know, the trees looked particularly beautiful and I was in love with those. And I'd run past people and I'd think, oh, aren't you beautiful people? Aren't you lovely? You're so perfect and you're just in the right place at the right time. And I see you. And of course I'd speak to them because I was so delighted to communicate with them, and they'd respond or not respond as a case, but I didn't mind. I was in love. I was in this state of love. No object anymore. Everything was there in my sight, and I was in love. This love was going out from me. So in a way, it was a complete reversal. I'd always thought that love came in from the outside. It came from somewhere else. It came from someone. It came even from perhaps a God that lived somewhere else. But suddenly it wasn't. It was inside me, and it wanted to go out. It wanted to communicate itself to everything and everyone, to say, I'm in love with you. I'm in love with the trees. I'm in love with the birds. And I'm in love with the seaside. I'm in love with cars. I'm in love with buildings. I'm in love with people.
Gosh, Nick, that makes me very jealous. That's, of course, an ego perspective. No, it makes me hungry,
Admiring.
curious.
You want it, don't you? That's
Yes,
what you want.
there is a deep desire. When you're talking, I absolutely, some people might think, well, I don't really, I'm doubting it. I absolutely get it. I 100% believe what you're saying. I 100% believe it's possible. I even do believe it's possible for me. You know, sometimes we have that question, it's possible for everybody, but it's not possible for me. I'm just getting, when you say you worked very hard, and then I hear you, hours? You must be kidding. Hours? I'm working years, decades.
Oh no, this particular night, this particular day. It was like, I have to say, there's a point where you get fed up with being fed up, you know?
Yes.
And Ernest Holmes in The Science of Mind said, he said, it's not enough just to be fed up. It's just not enough. People, loads of people are fed up.
Mm.
You've got to be fed up with being fed up, and then something happens.
Well,
So I
yeah,
got
yeah.
fed up with being fed up. I'd been working on this for 11 years. So I started when I was 21 on this journey. And so 11 years of hard work, reading every book I could possibly find, attending every meeting I could attend, doing all the work, filling out journals, all that work had been done. So this was just a particular night where I'd reached that point of fed up with
Yes,
being
okay.
fed up, that I could no longer carry on doing what I was doing because I was faking it. I was faithing it, as I might have put it then, because, in the New Thought teachings, we don't use the word fake, we use the word face. So I was doing all the right things, but no, I don't know.
Um, I don't even dare to say that I'm on my path, and it's 24 years. And I haven't done that shift so far. Um, I do get feelings of closeness. I do get overwhelming moments of deep gratitude and feeling deeply blessed and deep joy. And it was very funny. I just talked with Jared Franks yesterday in an interview, and I went for a massage to my doctor, and it had been a few rough weeks, and I told him what had happened, and all things went into a swirl. It was really exhausting, and I experienced that like 3 weeks, and it was cramped, and my muscles were aching. So he said, "Oh, you're very unhappy," and I thought, "No, I'm not unhappy. I'm actually very happy. I'm actually feeling there's one part of me that's my soul part. I'm a huge success," and it was really striking. I was like, how can you say that? So there's one part of me that is the ego comparing to everything, requirements of the world, and that's moaning, complaining, making myself miserable and everything. And then the other part that felt like, actually, my soul feels really happy. Now I'm still in separation, and the course is all about shifting into oneness and out of separation. So I'm still in separation when I'm saying that. But I could feel a taste. I could feel like, wait a minute, how if your soul feels, this is such a great life. I'm curious, exploring how would that feel in your mind or in your heart. I'm still trying to explore, and I think the readers and the listeners and the viewers too, how that shift can happen. Some people are way more patient than I am, and they reveal or unreveal layer per layer, and they take their time. They don't feel pushed. They don't feel rushed. I don't have that. I think I have been so often fed up. And for me, it's either the desire to get out of physical pain, which is a real catalyst, or it's a desire to live my passion and work my passion, because I do need to take care as an adult of my paychecks. So I always said, if I'm earning money, then I better earn it in a joyful way, in a loving way, in a way that is, So these are my catalysts of not seeing it as a hobby or taking a lot of time, or saying, oh, if it doesn't happen this lifetime, it happens next lifetime. I don't have that. So I'm wondering, and I heard that this is not about willpower. It's surrendering, and I don't know how often you have to surrender. Maybe you say, I don't know either, Janine. Maybe you have to surrender or hit bottom 100 more times, or have to be really fed up. I thought I've been fed up with being fed up already lots of times. And then you feel the next day, I feel very calm. And I feel totally peaceful. It was like this hitting bottom, or exhausting myself, or worrying, or whatever came up, or having a lot of physical pain. And then having that moment where it all drops, where you just cannot hold it anymore, where you cannot work it anymore. And I'm sure that lots of people have experienced that at times. And for some people, like for you and for Eckhart Tolle, he told it has happened the same way. He had so many panic attacks. So there was one day or one night that in that panic attack, he would saying, I'm fed up with myself. And then his awakening went, who is talking? Who is actually fed up with whom? So that was his observant awakening. It's a little bit like the same, like with you. And then I think, boy, I have been fed up, really fed up. Wasn't that fed up enough? How often do I have to repeat that loop? I mean, I had been so fed up. And so I wonder if there is not a recipe, there is not a system, there is not a structure. but still in that tiny part that I only can see, I'm trying to do the best as many others to have that shift happen, and pray and ask and receive. And then what are you doing in the moment where it's not happening? The journey of a human being. I see all that. I'm very human at the same time. So what do you say to your clients? I'm sure there are other clients who experience the same process.
Well, there are things we definitely have to learn, and these things that we have to learn are so different from the way the world works that we have to take them on board and trust that they're the truth until suddenly, when you have an experience like that, that is absolutely true. So one of the things that I'd been aware of and has been taught by Science of Mind and taught by Course of Miracles and all these teachings is that everything comes from inside out, that we are projectors of thought outwards, and the world we see is a projection of our own thought. Well, that sounds wonderful, and it sounds like
very fun, yes.
Wonderful idea, but to the world, the whole world has been taught that everything comes from outside in. That that, for example, if the weather's not very good, you say, "Oh, I'm feeling the weather's a bit depressing at the moment," as if the weather is changing your state of mind. So this idea that inside your mind is everything that is being projected out and you are seeing it in the world is a miracle. It's a shift in perception. It's a complete change in the way you see the world. So I'd recognize that, and I'd been working with that idea. But when you realize, or when I realized that the source of light and love was actually in me and was projecting outwards or extending outwards, I kind of went, yeah, it's true. It's true. This teaching that I've been taking on board and working with for years and years and years is actually true. It's real. It's a fact.
Yes, and I said,
I know it.
yes, I get it. And as I see this, and there's this desire and this commitment of, wanting to experience that too. So I could see within the course of my process, the layers of it needs to be that and that. And I always was very ambition driven and doing my purpose and changing the world and being there. And at some point I could even say, okay, if you have to, you become a receptionist, but you're not letting go of a commitment to your journey, to awakening, to come further. So I could see that the neediness of having to be someone, going to be somewhere, having a significance in the world, how the world sees it. Quite fashionable is at the moment, you create a better world. And I'm saying this particularly in a fun way, because I think this is all, as I understand you, it's all chasing the carrot. Before, yeah, it had been, just we wanted to have a great car, 2 kids and a house. And then we wanted to have a great husband. So that generation released itself. Now women become more independent in their work, and they want to make careers. And then they're pretty exhausted, and they feel, gosh, I need to have a lot of downtime, wellness, India, to get myself down again. So that didn't work so well. So then we say, okay, because it felt meaningless. So the next layer is, let's make the world a better place. And then we are bombarded by news of climate change that really do something with me too, and I will come back to that later, or by refugees or anything. So in order to have a happier life, let's work with refugees. Let's work for climate change. Let's work that the planet is surviving. But what you are saying, this is just a much more fashionable layer, and it's a much more fancy label, and it just sells very good right now. Sorry for being that I don't know what's happening with my tongue, but I want to make it a little bit more humorous, so we can have a gap between, what we all want and the inside out love. So what I'm hearing you saying is, it's inside out, and chasing the carrot of engaging yourself in the world is honorable. It's better than what we have done before, definitely, and kinder. And it's still chasing a carrot that works outside in. Is that true?
Yes, that's the problem. That was my big problem,
Mm-hmm.
was that I worked with journals and I worked with setting goals and targets. And so my idea was that if I had this amount of money, and if I had this job, and if I had this car, and if I had this person in my life, and if I had this house in my life, and if I was having these holidays, then I would be happy and feel this loving feeling all through the day. So there I was at the beginning of every year, writing my list down and making it, level with levels. So there would be a physical level. If the physical changes, these physical changes happen, I will be happier and more loving. If these emotional changes happen, I become more patient and more kind. Then I will feel more loving and more peaceful and happier. And if I do these, change my thoughts in this way, and I had a list of thoughts that I would like to change. And if I was more spiritually minded, meditated more, everything was focused on me making changes to my world and my life for this love to happen, to be there, this happiness to be there. But when it reverses, I just want the feeling of love and happiness, regardless of anything out there. It means that, when I'm cleaning my kitchen, I am feeling love and happy. When I'm just doing something really ordinary, like digging the garden, I feel love and happy. When I'm just with people waiting in a queue somewhere, I feel love and happy. Suddenly, all the outside is irrelevant now. It doesn't make any difference. I am the center of love and happiness in my universe. I am extending it. I am being that. And it really doesn't matter what form there is now. So writing down goals and writing down these things changes now, because none of them have the relevance of making me happy and feeling love. So what am I going to do now?
Well, I did catch myself a few days ago, and the circumstances were not so easy. I don't know what it was, but it was not big. And I said to myself, okay, Janine, it doesn't get better than this. So be happy right now. Of course, it's still, a clear voice saying that. And causeless happiness and causeless love is not new to us. And I can see that people try to teach it, but then I feel the ego comes over again, or the method to get there has more ego base than it has love base, because most of us are still searching, most of us are still exploring. And my question is, when we go to A Course in Miracles, it's about being of service to love. So people do think, if I'm helping people, including myself, if I'm making the world a better place to live in, if I'm engaging into, how I call it, planetary mindfulness, that is my calling for being a service of love. But then, of course, before we do anything, if it would be possible, and if there would be a school for that, wouldn't it be the case that before we do anything in this world, we first touch base with what love really is, with the source? And from there, we get guided where we go, and from there, the service will reveal itself. But we are not in need of, we are not needy to feel that we do the calling. We are not needy to save the planet, save the people, save humanity. It comes from a self-evident, neutral source. Or maybe we don't even have to exist anymore. Maybe if we go to school and our kids are learning now not mathematics and languages first, but they do learn to connect with the source first before they do anything in this world, we might disappear.
This is a big problem about love, eternal love, real love, is that the word service is forgotten. There is no such thing as service anymore. The only thing is being the presence of love, and just and you don't think about it anymore. So there's nothing to be saved anymore. There's no salvation needed for anyone or anything, and no planet to save, no people to save. There's nothing needs saving anymore. Yeah. The thing, I suppose, is seen that everyone must wake up to love, and if I can be helpful in some way for doing that, that's probably the most useful thing. But that comes with the person's decision anyway, that they want to wake up to this completely different kind of love.
Now let me
So,
sorry
so
for
service is irrelevant, really. You know, as the course says, when you get there, you need do nothing. Nothing needs to be done anymore, because love will do it. Love is doing it. It's already being accomplished.
Okay, let me dive in, because I think a lot of sacred activists you're feeling resistance when they hear that.
Yes, probably.
Yes.
It's very different. It's very different, isn't it?
It's very different. Now, I'm not, because I know you, and we have been laughing our heads off, Nick, and, you know, I could just take it with humor. So you have stripped so many of my thoughts and my imaginations, what makes me happy or what's supposed to be, from my mind. I expected already that I come with something that I felt this is the next thing. I got it, and then you will just strip it and say, no, that's not it, Janine. So I'm not surprised when you say sacred activism. It's actually not it. But then, of course, let's go back to where to be very human. We're watching the news. We're hearing. Let's go back to climate change. I mean, water, everything. Let's just nail it down here. And we're hearing the news that we have another 11 years to go until, and if in these 11 years not a real turn point is happening, that was it. We will be like other civilizations before us. We will not survive. And then, of course, people get anxious and afraid, and they have children, and they feel my child has not a future, and I wish that would be different. So they feel they have a responsibility, that they need to do something for the planet. And I also said it, like, as I said, I'm very human in this. I always say to businesses, when you do conscious leadership, it's self-evident that we also do something for the planet. We cannot separate conscious leadership from conscious planetary mindfulness. It cannot happen. It comes together. It's a oneness. But now while I hear you talk, it's not the way to go. So what you are saying is, it's not about the outer. It's really about bringing yourself into the position and unlayer your blockages, so that yourself become more and more awake. And if you feel called, you help other people to become more awake. But that's about it, what we need to do. And is it?
Yeah, you see, the big world that we're all serving, etc., is just a bigger self, isn't it? It's myself reflected outwards. It's my projection, isn't it? So the fact is that the world self is pretty fed up, but it's not fed up with being fed up. And we're fed up with climate change, but we're not fed up with being fed up with climate change yet. So these things aren't enough to make us really think differently, make us say, actually, for goodness sake, I can't do anything about this. I need to really think again what God is, or what love is. You see that once love takes over, it blesses everything around itself. Love will make the grass grow. Love will bring a tree back to life. Love will make a bird sing again. Love will make streams start flowing again.
And is that enough?
Love just does it. It doesn't. It's not like the person who's loving is doing that. It's just happening. It's happening because love is present.
And is that like somebody who feels who wants to engage into climate change, or into saving the world, or making the world a better place? So you say that it's still ego-driven. It's not love-driven.
It's still driven by, it is a form of love, but it's still driven by the illusion that something outside needs to change, rather than I need to change. I need to change my whole connection to life and love. I need to see it, that I am actually connected to an infinite source of love and light that's very, very powerful and can change my whole world, my whole life. The only thing that can save the world is if all individuals change. You know, if every individual wakes up and every individual returns to an awareness of what love really is, that will change the world.
But I think that's what I'm thinking is, if I'm just waking up, so if I would do something and I would, move thousands of people with other people through my actions, I do feel that at least I cover, in quotes, a lot of people who are going on that path. And if I feel, drop it, let it go, don't do anything, just take care of your own blockages, I feel like what's happening if I'm just getting it? That's just one person compared to so many people in the majority who is still far away from that. I think that's what we feel, this kind of hopelessness and powerlessness and overwhelm, that there's so much to do in this world that we feel almost guilty if we're not moving forward and only sitting in our nice house and, work on our stuff. It feels like not enough. I mean, I get you. I know what you mean, but we are still talking from a human perspective, not from the real love's perspective.
Mm-hmm. Well, fortunately, more and more people are getting to being fed up with being fed up. And then there are teachers who can respond to fed up with being fed up. So it is happening. But people think that progress is probably the other way, that people are more harmonious and enjoying things better and generally getting on better. The real breakthrough comes with being fed up with being fed up, reaching rock bottom. And all the great teachers now that are awake or waking up have reached that point. They've reached the point where they say, no more, I can't continue working in the world the way I have. I've got to make this change. Something's got to happen. And the awakening happens to that person. But then everything's changed. Everything's seen differently. Everything's seen as coming from inside out rather than outside in. So now I am a creator. Now I'm an extender of the power of love, life, and light. Now I'm the decision maker of everything. So it's a complete reversal.
So you're saying, let me just ask, because I still like to explore please be patient with me, explore the journey a little bit more. There's no doubt that most of us want to be there, what you're talking about. So this is why we are doing the work. I mean, you don't do it free will if you don't have a desire inside that pushes you. This is not, Sugarland and honey doing the work. We all know that. This is sometimes a really tough, rough road, and we hate it. And at times we drink a glass of wine or two to just, I hate it. I don't want to be a normal person. I want to go back. And there is no going back. We all have experienced that one. But there is a rocky road at times. And when you're saying like it's reversal, it's inside out. So let's say we are working on, the Christian side. We try to make the best. We try to compensate, to make ourselves and others feel better. Actually, what I understand you're saying is, don't do all that. Just rather, you're just prolonging hitting bottom. Just don't do all that. Just let yourself be completely fall. Don't even try to fix it. Don't try to make it better. Don't try to give yourself a bubble bath. Forget about it. Go into the terror, go into the anger, into the rage, into the deep fear. And at one point you will have, that's a shortcut and the no detour way to awakening. So then I can really forget about all that stuff and think, I'm just facing my anger here, my terror. I'm terrified to death. Because when I hear you that, you really do hit bottom and you're fed up with being fed up, I think, oh gosh, I don't want to have more rock buttons to go. I had already so many. And the other way, I think, don't take a detour. Don't make it nice. Don't put any more whipped cream on a piece of shit. See the shit, and then somehow beyond the shit, somehow you hope that Nick was right and the awakening is happening.
No, I can only speak for myself really, and I had to do all the things, all the positive thinking and all the practices and all the goal setting and success planning. I had to do all those things, and I do recommend everyone, because people have within them this energy to change the world or change their own world. It's like it's a battery life, and you can't just wear the battery down. It's got to be done. So everyone's got to try as hard as they can to make things work and do all these things. But finally, and I have to say that my shift didn't happen because I was broke or nobody loved me, or my life was falling apart, or I was sick, or nothing like that. Everything worked in my practices in the outer way. I was successful. I had wonderful relationships. I had the animals I wanted in my life. I had 2 beautiful cars to drive around in. I had money. I had holidays. I could go skiing when I wanted to. Everything was there, but I wasn't feeling eternal love, and I wasn't happy. I was quite stressed with it all and working very hard at it to keep it going, and keeping my thoughts right and all the rest of it. It's hard work internally. It didn't look like that on the outside because I went around calm and quiet, but it wasn't working in me. I wasn't feeling love. I wasn't feeling in love like I thought I would be when I'd got all these things in place. And that led me to the point actually to go, I'm fed up. I've tried everything I possibly can, and it's worked in the outer way, but I'm still inside. There's still this void. There's still an emptiness. I'm fed up with it. I have got to make a breakthrough. So no, everyone's got to do these things and pursue them because there's an energy for it, and they want to try. I could say all day to people, well, it'll never work or whatever, but the person goes, well, I think it will. I'm going to try it, and they need to do all those things.
What I got while I'm listening to you, I felt like, well, in this, I don't think we have a choice. Either it works, it pushes you in this lifetime, or it doesn't. And obviously for those who are listening to you now, it pushes us, it works through us. But what feels way more relaxing, I remember you told a story about the treasure that was hidden in the garden. And everybody was trying to dig and, very anxious to get the treasure out because it was a promised land. And you would just stand, I can still see the picture of the story. You would stand next to them and just be very chilled and relaxed and observe them. And you wouldn't do so much. I still have to laugh about it. And people were, very anxious and ambitious and, competitive, trying to get that treasure that was told, this is going to change your life in every way, out of the garden, while you would not do anything. And after a while, they would notice that you were so relaxed and so chilled and didn't really care about it. And then they would ask you, so where's your treasure? What are you doing about the treasure? And you would say in that story, there is no treasure. I still have to laugh about that. I find that so funny. It's like chasing the carrot again, and you have to take it with humor. I mean, you have to take that shit sometimes with humor. Otherwise, it's so horrible, because it feels like you do, and you're still not there. You're still not arriving. And as you say, it's hard work. And it's good that you say that. That's at least we do not feel so lonely, and we don't feel so wrong. But what it occurred to me while you were talking just now, I thought, whoa, wait a minute. I don't have to push anything. I mean, it will happen at one time. It will happen. I don't even have to. It will happen. I can maybe have a shortcut and happen, but it will happen anyway. Even if I don't find a shortcut, the energy will work its way through. So I just keep doing my stuff. It's going to present it to me. And I don't have to make such a fuss around what I'm doing, actually, because everything that I'm doing is presenting the layer that I have to undo. So I can just be relaxed about what I'm doing. And, I choose something that feels a little bit softer and kinder, but I don't have to push it, because what's presented to me in the outside is just helping me to wake up. And if it's this or that, it doesn't work, it doesn't matter. Is that true?
Yeah, I've got another story. I've just been on holiday down to the seaside and down to the beach. Took our little dog down the beach, and I was looking at the sandcastle competition. In my day, you just
Oh, wow.
a
Yes.
little sandcastle, and people competed. They were like children. But now there's really professional people working with sand now, and they do these sand sculptures, which is absolutely fantastic. And they make beautiful sand. They spent, years and years crafting their skills and working at making things that look like real people, or a beautiful motor car, or a cell phone all made out of sand that looks like a real cell phone. Just fantastic things that they can do with sand. But the sand will blow away. It will all fall apart, and or the waves will come in and take away those fantastic creations. Now, it's great fun to build these things, and you can enjoy doing them if you want to do them, but they will fall apart and they will eventually fade away. And it's the same. We're not convinced about the physical world in the same way. We think that eventually, if we persist in becoming better people and doing things right, that these things will be perfect and beautiful all the time. That houses will be so beautifully made, they'll last for thousands of years, and the bodies will get better and better, and the environment will become beautifully green, and gardens will be perfect, and all this stuff. This is just what we will do for a while, and we will persist with it for a while, but eventually we'll get fed up with it because it won't work. It will not last. It's not going to be eternal. People will keep falling in love. They will keep falling in love with different things, but eventually they'll run out of things to fall in love with, and they will. The being in love will not work for them anymore eventually.
Yes,
It is, what's so wonderful about A Course in Miracles, it points out the very obvious, that we're trying to achieve something in the outer that we think will give us the love, peace and joy that we want, when it quite obviously it won't. But we will continue trying. We will continue. It's like this is our own version of creation. This is our own version of what we can do. This is not God's or the original creators. We're going to have a go with this, and we're going to make it work, hell or high water, eventually, if we insist on it. But it won't work. It won't work. And eventually the mind sees that, the person sees that in their own life. They see it, this is just not doing it. And then there's this fed up with being fed up, and a complete reversal.
Can it be that it's a very personal journey, that we can, we hear your story and we hear Eckhart's story and other people's story. We're so motivated to hear those stories in order to grasp something that we can apply for ourselves. And then it feels like maybe this is a very personal journey, and this is about being personal. And there is no one answer to opening up to get there. There seems to be oneness when we get there, and
Yes.
nothing, but the journey as a human to arrive in that oneness seems to be very personal. Longer or not so long, or however, I think we want to have it, of course, as smooth as possible, as less hurtful as possible, and to not let the sacred activists, be disheartened now with what you're saying. Somebody, it's still, including myself, it still feels softer and more meaningful and purposeful doing this and trying to make this for paying my bills. Feels sometimes it's all like Monopoly. Do you have that in UK, actually, Monopoly?
Yes, we do.
Yeah, it feels like I'm just lent that, all that, what we do and the house and everything is just lent to me. So I play the game, and I play the growing game, and I play it in my own way. But it doesn't really matter. And to me, it feels better to do something meaningful and purposeful for humanity. And maybe for others it doesn't, but maybe the way towards the oneness doesn't matter. It's more that it's, you know, that we go there and then we take that as our game, and others take that as our game. But it seems, as you said, it doesn't seem to really, as long as it's pure and honest, it doesn't seem to matter which path we take.
No, well, there are these two different worlds. You know, people are either still working towards gaining love and peace and joy, or they have found the source of love, peace, and joy within themselves, and then they might be doing these things. So I might, you know, I don't mind going down and building sandcastles. In fact, I'd really be perfectly happy doing that. I'd enjoy that as much as anything else.
So you wouldn't
I'd love
feel
it.
guilty.
So
Yes,
I could be, or someone might say, "Will you come on this activist march?" And I say, "Yeah, I'm not doing anything this afternoon. That'd be great." So I'll go on it. But I have absolutely, I'm fully aware that it doesn't make the slightest bit of difference to be feeling love, peace, and joy whether I go on the march or not, because I'm already feeling that. I just happen to go along with it because that's what I'm going to do that afternoon.
Oh, Nick, that is so.
Somebody says, "Well, come and help me dig in my garden."
I'm
I'll say,
sweating already.
"Okay,
You know.
I'm free this afternoon. I'll come and dig in the garden."
Okay, can we? I know we are stretching it, and I don't know if you want to ever do a second part with me, because I'm sweating and I'm sweating, and maybe.
Well, let's just summarize. Let's just summarize.
Yes.
The first thing is that you really want to find this love that is so different from any love that you've ever known before. So you're willing to say, "I have absolutely no idea what love really is, because it's you know, obviously different from what I'm thinking." So I am going to dedicate myself to finding that love. I'm going to dedicate myself to love. It's going to be the most important decision of my life. It's going to be more important than finding anything else. I want to know what love is. That's number one. And then number two, the work is that we have within us numerous blocks to this love. And we're going to have to get to work and say, right, what are these thoughts? What are these ideas in my mind that are blocking me from feeling love? What are these fears in my mind? Because I'm ready now to face those fears and to look at those fears and to work with the Holy Spirit, work with my intuition, work with the higher self, work with someone who's doing that to free myself from these thoughts that are blocking the truth of love. And then with that work, one day, suddenly breakthrough, no longer is the world impacting on me and making me think things and feel things. I am the world. I am being and extending love, life, and light outwards and making a world, changing a world, being a world.
I would love to do a talk show with awakened people, I think, you know, just having only awakened people at the table. I want to just saying, A Course in Miracles is all about forgiveness. And forgiveness is also a term such as love that we have a certain definition on. And forgiveness feels very much like doing, and I have to forgive. Now, I felt that I had forgiven my ex-husband a lot, and it had cleared a lot. It cleared the paper and the fears and stuff. And then I heard that, you know, you are not forgiving. It's not the human who is forgiving. It's happening through you. And I think you said it beautifully. You said forgiveness is nothing else than undoing. Forgiveness means the undoing.
Yeah.
And I think on one way you said it's hard work, and on the other hand, we don't have to do anything. But the truth is we do have to do something. We do have to unblock and work as much as, you know, face it, see it, face it, surrender it, and surrender it to a higher force, to a higher purpose, to God, to your intuition, to something. Or I think quantum physics is really good at that, because they are showing that there is more happening in the world than that just our intellect. So that helps a lot of people, also those who come from the intellectual base, to surrender to something that we cannot grasp. But in order to walk that journey, we do have to do it with believing that there is a force, a loving force that is helping us, while we give it over. We give it over. We face it, we become conscious of it, we go through the motion, and then we give it over to undo. Is that so? That is part of the journey. That's in a nutshell.
Absolutely. The thing about forgiveness is it changes as the journey goes on. Initially, we want to forgive to free ourselves from these thoughts that we're having. We don't want to have them in our minds anymore. We want to be free of grievances. But for me, it's the word forgiving just means for giving. If I don't want to give love, if I don't want, I am blocking the extension of love, and I'm not going to be in love anymore. I'm cut myself off from the source of love within myself. So forgiving is just unblocking again whatever's stopping me giving love, extending love. And I don't like being out of being in love. I just don't want to spend a moment without being in love with everything, because it's such a heavenly experience, and it's so beautiful and wonderful. I don't want it to stop. So I don't want anything to get in the way of that. Okay. Any thoughts in my mind to get in the way of it. So my forgiveness is if I spot a thought that's stopping me feeling that in love feeling, I want it out. I want it gone. I want it undone. I want it undone. Whatever form it is.
Do you choose again, if you have a thought spotting, maybe we take, I'm doing a new job, or I'm afraid of not being the perfect mother, or not receiving the money I want. And that's a thought that creeps in. And there you stop and say, I'm totally, absolutely dedicated to love. I'm not allowing that love in my kingdom or in my mind happening. So, but sometimes thoughts can be extremely persistent. Then they come with emotions of rage, of deep anger, or of deep fear. And for me, it is, if I'm fighting it, I'm not getting anywhere. I'm just surrendering to it. Don't try to fix it. Observe it if I can. And sometimes I'm not even the observant. I just am going through the motions. But that was the quickest way to move out again. Yes. I didn't consciously try to, this has to be the thought. This has to be the thought. I was aware of that thought, that whatnot. And I was giving it also in some part. But sometimes it took, hours or a few days even to be out of the motion. And that grip of the thought didn't imprison me so much anymore. It was suddenly gone. But it was a way of weeks or days, months, that I was in the grip of that thought and that emotion. I just want to know that all those people who feel that, and I'm sure I'm not the only one, feel still, okay, I'm still on the right path, Nick. I'm still doing, it doesn't feel juicy, but I'm still on the right path. And that was my fear. Am I still doing it right? Am I still on the right path, or am I missing something here?
Well, when I was doing that, and this, when I first started Course in Miracles, I started with that forgiveness in that way. I got stuck on things, I had my younger brother really upset me, and I was doing the forgiveness exercises in the course, and they weren't working, and I didn't feel any different, and I didn't think any differently afterwards. I just did them. And so I got stuck again. I got to being fed up with not succeeding with my forgiveness. So I went quiet, and I said to the Holy Spirit, I said, look, I'm stuck on my brother here. I don't seem to be forgiving him or anything. And this very, very clear message came through into my mind. And it comes through as a very strong thought, a powerful thought. And this is what the thought said. It said, the decision to forgive is enough to heal. And I realized that people who really have got grievances don't even want to think about forgiveness, don't even want to try forgiveness, don't even want to look at the very thought that the forgiveness word is an F word to them. They do not want it. So for anyone who's starting on the pathway of forgiveness, if you want to forgive and you really want to learn about it, that's enough.
Yeah, that's true.
That tells me your heart's changed. Your heart is changed. Your heart's not in grievances anymore. Your heart is in forgiveness. Oh yes, you're going to get stuck on the way, and you're going to think that you should feel different and things should change in a big way or whatever. But the change has happened. You're now moving into another world because you want to be forgiving. You want forgiveness. You want to change. So that's enough. It's enough.
Does forgiveness, also to complete the interview and summarize it also from my learning, forgiveness came for me also in layers. Now, I thought I had forgiven a company or a team. I thought I had forgiven my ex-husband. And then suddenly, another layer of anger comes up. I think, oh no, I'm different. I'm not about, I don't want to forgive. I want to look at everything, but I just want to get it over with. I get it, got it, next one, got it, next one. So I think from my learning, from my personality, as I'm just wanting to get it over with because I want to have the goal, and the goal is that where you are. And as a human, I push it so hard, like with everything in my life. I also did this way. And for me, my learning is you can't stop pushing it. You can't stop pushing the outside because it doesn't matter so much what you do in the outside. Stop pushing it. You're going to work through the motions anyway, and it's the energy within you once you make that commitment to love. And I think that happened for many of us long time ago. It is pushing you, and not pushing, it's working you through the emotions. And everything is showing up in the outside. Not that you are a failure or that you haven't created well enough or manifested well enough, but that it's showing you layers of blockages to love. And it's going in the way. And if you take it a little bit more lighthearted and kinder and are not so, obsessed by it has to change, this has to change, maybe the whole journey is lighter. So that's what I got out of this talk today. Does it make sense?
It does.
Yay!
Indeed. It does indeed. It's been wonderful. It's always wonderful to talk to you anyway.
Oh, yes. I'm always completely exhausted. Afterwards, I always get chocolate. I'm always running to the supermarket. They ask me already, oh, did you have a session with Nick again? Yeah, I need chocolate.
Oh.
I think it's like jogging for me, like, having a talk with you. There seems to be a vibrational match I'm trying to match, because I'm feeling like if I have done a real workout after our talks, and it seems to, I don't know if it's raising my vibration or if it's really working me, but then I always need chocolate, and I almost always feel that I have lost a pound or two. It doesn't matter. We know now. It doesn't matter. So thank you so much, Nick. Thank you, dear viewers and dear listeners. That was Nick Davis from Worcester. And that was Janine van Zenos from Munich. This was New Generation Women and New Generation Men, our TV program with Nick Davis. Thank you.